Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We're wrapping things up with this week's Batman books as well as Justice Society #1. So we'll kick things off with Batgirls 2022 Annual. So the Batgirls have been operating out of the Hill portion of Gotham City, and they've actually done quite a good job. In Burnside, Barbara Gordon is talking with her old friend Alicia, who's opening up a boba cafe, which and Babs is offering to help out. It's fall in Gotham. At Gotham Modern Museum, known largely as simply the GM, Cass is doing sketches of some of the paintings. Her mother shows up briefly. Doesn't say anything, but shows up. Meanwhile, Steph is on a not date with her new friend Kyle. And they end up both having that discussion of, yeah, you know, they like each other, but they're both getting over others, and you know, they don't want to jump into anything. But they're at least decided to be close enough that they'll hold pinky fingers. Kind of cute, actually. We also get what the Batgirls have been doing. Various costume criminals causing problems and getting beat down by the Batgirls. And when Alicia's Boba Cafe opens up, which Kaz and Steph help put together, Babs drops the bomb on them that Clock Tower's rebuilt, so she's moving back to the Clock Tower. But the place they've got in the hills is still, you know, will still be for Steph and Cass, and you know, they'll have comms, and also comms are being redone. So for a couple of days, Fido will basically be acting as comms. Part of the reason why Babs is moving back to the Clock Tower is not just that it's rebuilt. It's that at the loft, she's working with half as much equipment as she's used to. At the Clock Tower, she's got more room to spread her setup out. So, during Steph's not date with Kyle, he told her that house on the block he lives on was robbed a few nights previously, and there have been cops all over the street for the last few days. So the Batgirls go to check it out and discover it wasn't just a robbery; it was also a crime scene. But Cass finds something and states that they have to get out, and they do. However, Steph hears a cat stuck in a tree, and so she helps it. She gets it down and returns it to its her owner, and the owner gives Steph a coin as a token of her appreciation. Upon returning to the loft, she finds Cass preparing for war. Cass explains she found a broken blade at the crime scene, stuck in the floorboards. The emblem on it belongs to the League of Assassins. But we get some shots of Cass and Steph just kind of having fun, being roommates. Cass also tells Steph that she saw her mother. They got a quarter of her eye, and then she was gone. But they talk about whether or not the other could cut it for a day as if they could cut it for a day as each other. So they decided to flip the coin, which they do, and it lands. Not neither heads nor tails, just straight up and down. Next morning, Steph wakes up, or rather, Cass wakes up in Steph's body. And Steph is in Cass's body. They take the coin to Babs, and they're basically, for the time being, they need to, well, do their best to act like the other. But they've got ways to get in touch with Babs. They also have a picture, or they go to talk to Officer Brooks, who's Babs' in it with the GCPD about the crime scene. He shares a sketch of the victim's daughter with them. Suggested that the sketch is dangerous and shouldn't be shared. And the Batgirls go on with their investigation. At the Batcave, Babs has asked Batman to analyze the coin, and she tries to downplay her concern for Cass and Steph, but Batman points out that he knows how she feels, and point out that she'd blame herself if anything happened to them, and adding that he did blame himself and still does. And also she wanted to check Bruce's library to see if maybe there was something she could use there. Back on the hill at the 440 Club, a ninja is talking with one of the Hill's Angels when the Batgirls show up. Putting the smackdown on the Hill's Angels when the ninja comes after them, and then ends up with a blade through their neck. Chopper shows up with Lady Shiva, wanting to talk to Cass. And so Steph, in Cass's body, leaves with Shiva, while Cass, in Steph's body, talks with one of the Hill's Angels, who apparently wanted to propose a truce between themselves and the Batgirls. Their idea of truce was the Batgirls leave them alone, and Hill's Angels give the Batgirls a cut. But no deal there. However, the ginger ale that the member of the Hill's Angel gives Cass is spiked, and she passes out. Apparently, someone's looking for Steph. Shiva explains that Shiva and Kat and Steph talk, with Steph stating that, as Cassandra, that she chose she makes choices all the time, choosing to speak, choosing to read, to learn, choosing friendship, and choosing to live. And Shiva says that tonight Shiva chose to see her daughter. But Steph asks about the League of Assassins, pointing out she knows they're active in Gotham. They're handling it. And so Shiva asks if something happens to her, how would Cass handle that? The Steph guy says, "What you know? Did she worry about her legacy?" At the new Trigate Bridge, headed north to I-95, Cass wakes up in the trunk of a car, on the back seat of a car, I should say. The driver turns off the radio. It states that he's her father, Cluemaster, and that is where the issue ends. Okay, this is actually doing one thing that I actually kind of like when annuals do, setting up story arcs. I like it when an annual actually matters for the overall, or for the series. It's kind of annoying when an annual is just basically, a one shot and with a quick one off story that could have been done in, two random issues. Moving on though to our next book, we've got Detective Comics 2022 Annual. Yeah, all this week's Bat books are annuals. I'm not complaining, just saying. And this does the same. Doesn't set up on upcoming stories, but that's probably going to tell. But it does connect to the current story running in Detective Comics, Gotham Nocturne. So Gael is speaking with one of the Orgums at what's left of Arkham Asylum. Apparently there was a Arkham Asylum, the ground it was on used to be a church. And underneath the church, something was buried by Gael, apparently long ago. Flashback to, most of the story is a flashback to the Gotham settlement in 1776. A farmer couple in the settlement, the Wainwrights, had been murdered. Their son saw the whole thing. Uninjured, but he was with them the entire time. A drifter, Aldridge Pierce, who's been living in town the past couple of years, is doing what he can to comfort the young boy. Local farmer, Barrowman, was the one who discovered the Waynes. He woke from a nightmare of wolves attacking him, and he went outside and saw a wolf, or what looked like a wolf, but as big as a man. In Gotham, or in his field. Now, the local doomsayer priest, Ichabod Crane, shows up, insisting that the witch living outside of town be dealt with. But the Orgums arrive, and with them is Gael. Then at the witch's house, Ayana's house, Crane brings a group to take care of her. But Pierce shows up, beats the holy hell out of a bunch of them, and then talks with Ayana a bit before she works on healing his hand. But he discovers upon going inside that she's caring for a raider. Apparently there's a raid coming in the next couple of days. The leader of the raiders bears a striking resemblance to a certain, at this point in time, future district attorney of Gotham City. Well, at least a striking resemblance to how he looked after he stopped being a district attorney and started becoming a crime boss. Looks like Two-Face. One half of his face is painted white, the other half painted red. His raiders are seem to attack Gotham. But Gael, Crane, and some of the other townsfolk are discussing things to come. Gael has the Organs have funded the building of a church for Crane to preach out of. And Gael first sees the item he dug up from underneath Arkham, explaining that things must emanate in a certain way. Keeping the town should stay as it should, in a certain manner. Pierce ends up taking the Wainwright boy to help him get over what he's gone through. Though he feels slightly ashamed as he knows he hasn't told anyone about the raid. Meanwhile, Ayana is doing her thing when her home was attacked. Pierce shows up to save her. Dressed like a bat. Wading through the raiders and saving Ayana, who says it's not the raiders, it was the locals, meaning to take care of the witch woman. She explains that the plants in the forest, she can talk to them, and they listen to her. And the raiders will take care of the forest will take care of the raiders. Those that it doesn't, the Batman takes care of. Even dealing with and he then deals with the leader of the raiders personally. But setting in motion quite a bit of what's to come for Gotham. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting. I kind of like the idea that it's an idea that pops up every now and again with different writers, that there have been previous Batmans in Gotham before Bruce. That I also really like the idea that so many within that looking at the townsfolk in Gotham, there's some similarities to quite a few prominent Gothamites. Ichabod Crane is manipulates people with fear. Sounds like somebody else named Crane that is prominent in Gotham. We have a bearded smoker of a a bearded smoking man who's the constable. Well, maybe not a constable, but at least who investigates crimes in the town. Of course, there's the leader of the Raiders, who very clearly meant to look like Two-Face. So yeah, interesting stuff. I like when they do stuff like that. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got the Nightwing 2022 annual. This issue, simply put, gives us the origin of Heartless. So apparently, Heartless was in the audience of at Haley's Circus the night that Grayson's died. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So most of the issue is narrated by a man named Gerald Chamberlain, who was hired on as a butler in a fairly well-to-do Gotham family. However, their son, Shelton, had some odd interests, including which generally involved blades and small animals. Gerald did what he could to help Shelton, as he's acting to shock his parents. Turns out that Gerald Chamberlain is not the man's real name. He met someone on a ship making its way across the ocean, named Gerald Chamberlain, who had been hired as a butler. And so, the real Gerald Chamberlain had his throat slit and was pushed overboard. The hope was that Gerald would be added, could worm his way into the good graces of the family, and get added and get written into the will. But he found a kindred spirit, however, in Shelton. Took him on trips, the butchers, the zoo at feeding time, and to the circus. When Shelton saw the Graysons fall, well, he had long been mute. That was what got him started talking. He became more confident. And would eventually be a schoolmate of Dick Grayson. Even telling Dick that, teasing Dick about the death of Dick's parents. But the time came to rid themselves of Shelton's parents, but there was a miscalculation. Shelton was in the car in the helicopter when it blew up. And so Gerald forged Shelton's father's signature for an emergency transplant, giving Shelton his father's heart. And so Gerald raises Shelton. Of course, the heart was not the first replacement body part. Cybernetic limbs, but he found himself constantly having to replace his heart, which is something Gerald takes care of for him. Once Blockbuster's heart is removed, well, the thought is that Blockbuster's heart would actually be able to maintain, basically keep Sheldon's body going at a rate that it should be at. Gerald admits to being proud of Shelton, as though Shelton were his own son, but Shelton says, "I am your son." Basically, kind of in every way that matters, I am your son. We then get a backup story titled "Night Out." Um, Having a night in at his apartment before the building was blown up, Dick gets a text from, or gets a call from Barbara. And at first I'm just kind of staying in, but she sends him a picture of what she's wearing under the overcoat she's wearing. Well, yeah, 3 minutes they'll be down. So they go out, leaving Haley, and Dick states that he wished he knew what went on in Haley's head when they are attacked by Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, Poison Ivy. They've Catwoman sold some components for Freeze, and Ivy made sure that everything worked for a giant power armor, basically. However, someone's going to rescue them. Nightwing. And there's a statue erected to Nightwing. When Dick and Babs return, well, Nightwing, Haley's ruined his PS5 controller and his Switch and a bunch of other stuff he had, including a negligee that he got that Dick had gotten for Babs. So yeah, Haley's going to obedience school. Our final story, the lesson. So back in the end of the Nightwing, Superman Son of Kal-El crossover, Nightwing told Superman that if he ever needed to talk, Dick was there. Well, this happened after John hurt someone using his powers, and he noticed that Nightwing, when he fights, doesn't fight as though he's supposed to be stronger than anyone. So he makes sure that he's better, and he wants to fight. And John wants to fight without hurting people. He can't make a mistake like he did. So yeah, it's a little hard to train someone when you're an unmodified human being when they're at a power level that is matched virtually just by deities. Training dummy gets punched into orbit. It's stated that it'll burn up on re-entry. And Nightwing thinks about his teaching, or how he was taught, and kind of thinks back on how Bruce trained him, and decides to do a different manner. But he even states that one thing Batman told him when he was training to be Robin was that you have to do a thing 10,000 times before you truly know it. And after that, John goes and does what it is he's been practicing 10,000 times. And also, John throws a weight potentially speaking, into orbit. But apparently this is going to be the beginnings of This is going to kick off backup stories within next few months worth of backup stories in Nightwing. Which means Nightwing's start getting backups. And that is where the issue ends. It's a good annual. Once again, I like when companies use an annual to set things up for future issues. Like intentionally so, not just, hey, this thing we did in this annual, that we could probably expand on that, couldn't we? Yeah. So, moving on to our last one for the week, we've got Justice Society of America #1. The JSA is basically a golden age analog of the Justice League. They existed beforehand, but they fell into obscurity after as the golden age wound to its end, and they found a new audience in the silver age and the modern age, and their status in the DCU is always in flux. Oftentimes, people editorial will want to say, yes, the JLA, they were the first heroes of the DCU. And then someone comes along and says, maybe we can have the JSA instead. Yeah. So, spinning out of the new Golden Age one shot, Helen Wayne is investigating the murder of her father. But we get some milestone points for each of them. 31 years ago, the death of the Waynes. 13 years ago, Selena Kyle going out as Catwoman. 1 year from now, the birth of Helena, with Selena saying, "You can't." Well, with Helena's birth, it becomes that Selena says she can't tell Bruce or anyone. If the Arkhams find out about the child's existence, she'll never be safe. And 26 years from now, Helena is asking what's happened to Dr. Fate. With her JSA teammate Solomon Grundy, there is extra muscle. But her and but the thought is that Fate was possibly killed by Salem, the witch girl. At the JSA headquarters, Power Girl's not happy with the new lineup. Grundy, Gentleman Ghost, Harlequin's son, Icicle, The Mist, and the daughter of the Golden Age Red Lantern. But they're having no luck finding her, or finding Dr. Fate. And finally, they do find Fate. Mummified, seemingly in a sarcophagus, seemingly haven't been in there for thousands of years. Power Girl doesn't want most of the team there because because of their villainous history. While her and Hundreds argue about it, however, Power Girl is stabbed, or is shot, by Per Degaton, holding a kryptonite ring. It's explained that he uses time manipulation powers to basically expose, to in an instant basically give Power Girl a week's worth of kryptonite exposure with the bullet. Gentleman Ghost attempts to attack Negaton and is put back to immortal and promptly shot dead. Grundy is turned into a pile of dry ash. Harlequin's son is reverted back to his infamous Wildcat and having to deal with all of his injuries once again, but worse. Icicles frozen in place before being shattered. Ruby's body generates her power too quickly and without release. She splits at the seams. The mist gives into same mind deteriorating disease that his grandfather had before his heart gives out. And Helena is turned into an old woman. But then Helena's mother shows up with the Flashpoint snow globe, and Helena catches it and ends up in the air, thrown back through time. So she ends up in 1940, at the age she should be, being found by Johnny Thunder and the Thunderbolt. That is where the issue ends. This is the second JSA #1 I've read written by Jeff Johns, and it does kind of seem like his kind of go-to for starting things up is someone's trying to kill the Justice Society. But the first time was an interesting read, so we'll see how this one goes. Anyway, that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.